I mean, you've accomplished a lot already in your career. You have a championship, you have a huge contract.
I'm going to embrace the role, embrace the challenge, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do.
I talked about Josh Giddey a few weeks ago and how he's basically putting up superstar caliber numbers leading his own team. A sentence that nobody thought they'd ever say when he was getting benched in the playoffs in OKC for being unplayable. However, it's not just Josh Giddey. I want to take a look at more players. Who else saw their careers going nowhere, yet now? These players look incredible, and their critics are slowly disappearing. Let's take a detailed look at a few players who shockingly flipped the narrative, and the years upon years of doubts vanished overnight.
Teams are playing to defend that, and instead they read it and divert.
Porter buries the three.
Hey folks, before we start, I'd like to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video, Raycon. Holiday season is coming, ladies and gents, and I've been using Raycon's Everyday Earbuds Classic, and I love them. When I do chores around the house, or I'm reading or just trying to relax, they're perfect. Raycon's Everyday Earbuds Classic is also packed with upgrades, with active noise cancellation, multi-point connectivity to pair two devices at the same time, and an ergonomic design that makes it super comfortable to wear for long periods at a time. And you definitely could use them for a long time. The battery life is insane. When you include the charging case, it can reach a combined 32 hours. Plus, the audio quality is just as good as the bigger brands, but at half the cost. And if you don't like them, they got a 30-day happiness guarantee return policy. They got some new colors in stock too, like these, cool mint. The Everyday Earbuds Classics are here for the holiday season. Raycon audio products are up to 20% off this holiday season. Just click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/hoops to save on Raycon audio products site-wide. Order by December 15 to guarantee delivery by Christmas, because great gifts should not show up late. Michael Porter Jr. For much of his career and for much of his life, injuries have been the bane of his existence. In particular, shoulder and back injuries, which severely damaged his athleticism and shooting ability over the years. In his final season in Denver, Porter actually had an amazing regular season, but with a sprained AC joint in his shoulder, he hobbled in the playoffs. In that playoffs, it was ugly.
Extended run. Porter separates, pulled the string, trying to flag it down, and then throws it.
In most games, he was a complete non-factor, but he muscled through it. Nobody ever criticized whether or not Porter was talented. He clearly is. But it's his ludicrous contract that he signed back in 2021, which bottlenecked the Nuggets' ability to improve the roster. Cause he really did not improve much. Fans and the media alike pointed to his contract as the reason for the Nuggets' shortcomings over the years, especially when he was constantly injured and underperformed. Back then, that kind of money was only reserved for all-star caliber players, and Porter was nothing more than a role player who benefits playing alongside Jokic. The question everyone wondered, is he truly talented enough to lead his own team and be the primary scorer on a consistent basis? We pondered that for years. So upon getting traded to Brooklyn, it was a strange situation. Yeah, there's no more expectations to win the title, but he also joined a team with the biggest ball hog I've ever seen, Cam Thomas. There was a high chance Porter would barely get the touches he wanted and stand in the corner like usual. But no, he snatched the first option role right out of Cam Thomas's hands and took it upon himself to lead the team. I mean, that's quite badass, honestly. In fact, he's a better scorer and somehow a better passer than him as well. I guess that shouldn't surprise me considering it's Cam Thomas we're talking about, but Porter was notorious for never passing the ball back in Denver. To average a career high of over 3 assists per game, that's not bad for him. Perhaps the most impressive part is, even without Jokic feeding him, Porter has maintained his efficiency on both his attempts at the rim and his three-point shots, while at the same time increasing his volume to the highest level of his NBA career. Now garnering the bulk of the attention from opposing defenses, Porter is unaffected. His confidence is at an all-time high, and the results are in the box score. Over 25 points a game, 62% true shooting percentage, an improved playmaker. It makes you wonder, if he started his career as the first option, would he have turned out to be a perennial 30-point per game scorer by now? Think about it, it's his first time being the #1 option, and he's immediately flourishing. Obviously, the Nets are so bad, it doesn't matter how well he plays, but at least he's bringing some entertainment to an otherwise disastrous franchise. Dillon Brooks. It's rare to find a player who has a breakout season at almost 30 years old. It's even more rare for it to happen to a guy who many deem as a laughingstock. But it happened, after years of being labeled a nuisance, a yapper, a menace, sometimes even a dirty player. Brooks is the perfect example of a player who you love if he was on your team, but despise when he plays against you. However, despite being a throwaway piece in the Kevin Durant trade, you wouldn't expect him to break out like this and become the second leading scorer behind Devin Booker. Plus, the Suns are performing better with him than Durant. After losing KD, Brooks came in and filled that scoring hole as best as possible. Of course, he's nowhere near the caliber of a scorer as KD, not even close. And the whole purpose of the trade was to press the reset button and go younger. Hence why Jalen Green was the primary piece they got in return. The Suns hoped they could inject some life into his tumultuous NBA career. Brooks, though, no one cared he was even in the deal, yet he's the second most important player on the team now. More importantly, the Suns actually have a winning record now. It's his defense, and some would say edginess, that elevate his team. No matter how much you hate him, you can't deny he makes his presence known on every team he's been on. You know what's funny? Through the years of the Phoenix Suns during the Booker, Durant, Chris Paul, and then Bradley Beal era, what they were missing was a tough, gritty player willing to get his hands dirty. Brooks is exactly the guy they needed back in those days. He could have been the guy who pushed them over the top. Now, as the team's secondary option, it's a role he's not accustomed to, but still managed to change the entire attitude of the Suns franchise. Even Devin Booker called him a culture changer, and noticed he put in more hours over the summer than any other player on the team. So maybe his newfound success is due to an underrated work ethic. I guess we all looked at him like a comic book supervillain his whole career, so we never noticed how much his game has improved. Lauri Markkanen. When the Utah Jazz traded away Rudy Gobert in what most people deemed as the worst trade Minnesota ever made, it turns out maybe we were wrong. Gobert became a crucial factor in helping the Wolves reach back-to-back conference finals in their most successful period in franchise history. The Jazz, on the other hand, have yet to capitalize from that trade. The only thing they experienced was 3, soon-to-be 4 straight years of missing the playoffs. Now, they still have a few more of the Wolves' picks and pick swaps, but only 2 decent players have resulted from this deal thus far: Walker Kessler and Keontae George. The other player arrived through the Donovan Mitchell trade, and that is Lauri Markkanen. When he got here, he became a first-time All-Star, the NBA's most improved player, and it looked like maybe, just maybe, he could take over as the new face of the franchise. In fact, they even handed him a 5-year, $240 million contract on a silver platter, a clear sign they want him to be the face of the Jazz. Sadly, through a combination of injuries and a changing role, Markkanen's place on the team was in limbo. Shortly after he signed the deal, he was thrown into trade rumors, and every time it seemed like the Jazz were gonna pull the trigger, Markkanen goes on an incredible scoring streak and makes them reconsider. Some would say it's a toxic relationship. Whenever you feel like you should break up with him and let him go, he does something good and you change your mind. Really though, the Jazz never should have given him this albatross of a contract to begin with, but it might be finally paying off. That brings us to this current dilemma. Markkanen, for the first 20 games or so, has rekindled his basketball spirit. He took over the team as the de facto first option once again, and he's recording the best numbers he's ever had. I don't think anyone expected him to average close to 30 points a game, but he's doing it, and hilariously, the Jazz are still losing.
Now can you learn how to put the gas down? The assist is...
One could look at Lauri Markkanen and think, wow, he's finally doing it. He finally elevated his game to a whole new level, a level the Jazz have been waiting for all these years. From another angle, you could look at this as an opportunity. You think, well, he's 28 years old, and he's had a history of injury problems. He probably won't get much better from here, and the Jazz are not real title contenders. His trade value is at an all-time high, so why not capitalize? Markkanen is not a newcomer to trade rumors, but he's a special kind of player. Other teams typically avoid a player with his contract, cause it's ginormous, but he also has a skill set that piques the interest of contenders. Dude is a 7-foot center who can shoot threes and roll to the basket at will. He's just a very dynamic, very fluid, well-rounded scorer at his size, a combination that's rarely seen. If anything, Markkanen's renaissance has been a lifesaver for the Jazz, who can dangle him in trades and extract as much value as possible. As of now, most of their picks from the Rudy Gobert trade are still waiting to be used, so even if they can't compete in this era of the NBA, they'll have a better chance in the future. Deni Avdija. Prior to his NBA career, Deni Avdija was widely praised around the globe. Some even compared his game to the likes of Luka Doncic, a tall, do-it-all player with point guard capabilities. But he succumbed to a fate that many have before. His team gave up on him too early. After 4 years in Washington, D.C., he showed steady, slow improvement. But when it was time to give him a bigger role, the Wizards got cold feet. They felt he didn't show enough to give him the keys to the franchise. It's weird. I mean, they'd rather have Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma leading the tank than even considering giving Deni a bigger role. Shortly after, they traded him away for future picks, hoping to find someone better in the draft. It turns out they probably won't find someone better. In Portland, Deni Avdija caught fire. It took a while, but he's finally playing like the player he was projected to be, a powerhouse dominating in all facets of the game. What changed, exactly? Well, over the offseason, the Blazers got rid of Anthony Simons, and the injury to Scoot Henderson basically removed 2 high-usage players from the team. Previously, the Blazers had a plethora of young players fighting for touches, fighting for possessions to prove themselves. Former coach Chauncey Billups was also a polarizing coach, and he experimented with so many different lineups, which caused Avdija to get benched at random points in the season. That's unacceptable for the only guy on your team with superstar potential. Now, under interim head coach Tiago Splitter, he streamlined their offense and focused their efforts on just him. He recognized his immense talent, but it's finally time to give him total control of the offense, something they should have done a year ago. Players typically don't come out of nowhere and start playing like a superstar. For Deni, it was many years of people not believing in him. So when he saw a sliver of a chance in Portland, he performed, and they had no choice but to believe in him. You could easily say the Blazers lucked into a happy accident. And that's kinda true. With Billups getting investigated for his criminal gambling activity, it allowed a new coach to come in with a different mindset. Had he remained the Blazers coach, Deni would have been stuck in purgatory, a forever 17 to 18 point per game scorer for the rest of his career. Even better, he's on arguably the best contract extension in the entire league. Back in 2023, he signed a 4-year, $55 million extension. It was a steal at the time, and it's an even greater steal now. In fact, it's looking like a generational steal, if he can keep this up. Anyway, that's all folks. Those were some players who people kinda lost faith in over the years, and nobody thought they could play like this. It's incredible, so what are your thoughts? Do you think these guys, especially Porter and Avdija, are legit all-star caliber players? Or is it, too soon to tell? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.